What's up, everyone on YouTube? It is InDriver KG, and we've had this thing now for 6,000 miles, and I'm going to give you a 5,000 mile update on my 2023 Hyundai Elantra N in a 6-speed manual. So, welcome to my channel. I am InDriver KG, and I'm going to give you a little bit of how this car has been. Let me tell you a little bit about this car and me. I previously owned a 2022 Hyundai Elantra N in a DCT, and we got rear-ended, and unfortunately we had to give that car up. It got totaled. So fortunately came into a 23 with a 6-speed manual. Now, I had other options that I was looking at the time, and just for the price, when it came down to it at $34,000, I could not just get anything that was close to the same value that you get in the Hyundai Elantra N. Now, you do have other options that are out there. You got the Subaru WRX, you got the Honda Civic Type R, you have the Integra Type S, you have the GTI or the Golf R. All of these options cost a little bit more if you want to price it out the same way that this is optioned. But for me and my needs, I felt like the Elantra N was perfect. So fast forward, we get into this car. This current car is tuned. It is on a methanol setup. So we have the intake, have a downpipe, we have a cold pipe, and now we have some other goodies that I'm going to get into in later videos. But now with the stock turbo, I was able to get that car up to pretty good times, but we're about performance later. I just wanted to share with you guys how this car has been to me for the past 5,000 miles. So when it comes to driving this thing on the road, it's actually very comfortable. It's a very soft clutch. It does take some time getting used to it. It's very easy, but for some people, when you're in eco mode, the car is so quiet, you really can't tell where you're at when it comes to eco mode, and you're getting in for the first time, and the grab point is a little tricky. But once you get used to it, it is super easy, and around town you're just driving this thing effortlessly. Like, there's no issues, no complaints. Honestly, this is one of the perfect filling clutches. When it comes to N mode, you get a little stiffened. Is the grab point is actually changed when you're in N mode, which is interesting. I've never heard anybody talk about that, but it is slightly different when you go to N mode and sport mode from eco mode. So another thing is, when you're in traffic, how is it? Is it a little heavy? No. So this is not one of those clutches that beat you up. I come from a lot of cars. I've owned a lot of cars that were stick shift, and this is one of the nicer ones, if not the nicest stick shift that I've driven when it comes to being in the traffic. Like I said, it will stay soft, it will not harden on you, it does not beat you up, which is a really good thing. And honestly, I think this thing is going to last for a long time, especially if you're staying stock turbo. Yeah, if you're tuned, you're still going to have no issues with the clutch and how this thing is. But we're actually going to teach my fiance. Where is she at? Okay, she's somewhere around here. She's over there. We're actually going to teach her how to drive stick in this. She did drive a few of my other cars that were stick shift, and she got those, so she just has to get this down, because this is obviously different from a Mustang and a Corvette. But we're going to go into another video and see how well she can drive this thing out on the road. When it comes to the shifter in this thing, the shifter feel is actually pretty amazing. Now, I've driven the Type R, I've driven the GR Corolla, and honestly, the Type R is really nice. And I've heard some people say that the Type R is definitely better, but I kind of beg to differ. This has a very similar feel. Like, this feels like a old school soft 4-cylinder clutch, and it feels like a nice shifter. Like, it's a really nice engaging shifter, and it really takes any beating that you're giving it, and it holds up really well. So if you like to power shift and snatch them gears, this is a perfect car for you. Because let me tell you, I drove one of my friend's Genesis, and he has the 2.0 Genesis. That is a 6-speed manual. That one wasn't as smooth to drive as this is, and you can't throw that shifter around in gear. Like, you can go pretty fast from first to second, second to third. You can really enjoy and beat up on this shifter, and honestly, it will not fight back. It will just take whatever you got to give. And for me, that is a big point, because a lot of this time I am out of Mexico and I need to shift as fast as possible. And if I'm going to be a driver mod, the car has to have a good mod on it too. So I'm glad that that works out for this car. All right, next we're going to get into this infotainment system, which I love. It is very responsive. I like the things that it actually shows. So I'm able to see what the turbo pressure is, and if you're tuned, it's only going to go up to 20. So it's only going to show 20, even though you're probably doing more. Your throttle position, you got your engine temp. I have on the dashboard the oil temp. You got your brake. You have a lap timer. You also have a 0 to 60 timer that you can get, which I haven't really used the 0 to 60 timer. I got the Draggy and the race box for that, but all in all, this infotainment system is great. You do get heated seats, which come in handy, and these heated seats do burn your ass up. I will say that, and it is a great working heated seat. I did wish we have ventilating seats, but you know what? Beggars can't be choosers when you have this nice bolstering going on in the seat, and of course that N logo lights up, which is really nice. Another thing is, when you're in the manual, the cup holders matter a lot, and I left these in here because I wanted to show you guys what kind of space you get in this thing with the cup holder, so you it's still able to shift comfortably without crunching into your cups or whatever drinks and beverages that you have here. So that is a really good placement. I feel honestly, if you got something really big here, if it's bulky and coming out, it's going to distract you a little bit going into 6th gear, but most drinks and most small like fountain drinks that you have will not give you an issue when it comes to shifting or any of that matter. Excuse the mess here. This is all my electronics. I'm going to actually bolt all this up on the other side. This is the mount I got. It's just called a snake mount, and that is to hold my phone, and this is my EK1 device. And again, this cockpit is just a really nice place to be. And you know, you got your different sport modes, which, you know, all that is about the same. Everything's the same, going to be the same as the DCT model. But again, this car has 6,697, so about 6,700 miles, and this car has just been awesome to me. So as you guys can see, this car has quite a bit of modification done to it since stock. When it was stock and brand new, it was a black. It was the all black model. This is currently wrapped, and I took some marker and I basically just drew lines all around the car, and this is what that looks like. I did update the grill, so now we have the M&S style grill. I got this for about $250. This N logo lights up. That is from Lit Logos. We have the badge skins for the eyelets and the amber delete up top. We also going to come to the wheels. We do have 18 by 8.5. These are the Motegi track light MR145s. These are 18s, and they weigh 18 pounds. We did do a rear spoiler delete. I am actually going to put a spoiler on here. I'm going to put the correct duckbill spoiler that I had on the old car. It's just the one that I had on there didn't have 100% great fitment, so you know, there unfortunately had to change that. But as for that, this car, other than that, is pretty much stock on the outside. Still have the stock brakes. The stock brakes work well, but they do pick up quite a bit of brake dust, which if you own an Elantra N or are going to get into an Elantra N, you're going to know that the brake dust is pretty serious with the stock. So I will be upgrading these to the EBC red stuff. I got that idea from Gavin. He's another YouTuber that has a Kona N, and those work perfect for this car. So this car currently takes about $35 to fill up from around empty, and that is on premium. I only put premium in this car. These cars do come with 276 horsepower. With the tune on it, we were at, with stock turbo, around 370 to 400, anywhere between that number with the tune and stuff that was on it. And still I was getting anywhere between 23, 22 in the city and about 34, 35 on the highway. So you can expect to get better gas mileage once tuned. These cars do have something called octane learning when they are stock and new. I am not a fan of the octane learning. That is one thing that I've always griped about these cars. The octane learning is very finicky, and I never even got it to work on this 6-speed manual. The difference is between the manual and the DCT, you're going to get a better fun factor with the manual. For me, the manual just makes this car even more perfect and is even harder to beat. And when it comes to modding, you do get more of a capacity with the manual, as the DCTs start to give you issues if you pass 400 pound-feet of torque, which the DCT model for some reason very easily passes that higher torque number with an aggressive tune. So with the manual, you know, the torque is not as serious, but this car and the clutch can take a lot. We are still on the stock clutch right now, being that with the other stuff that we got going on. But just all in all, this car has just been amazing. I have people in this car all the time, and even my friends, they fall asleep in the back. That's how much space you get back here. I actually got some stuff back here, but let me show you. Sorry about the mess. I do daily this car, so I do have like my everyday things. That's from the Azera, and just got a Xbox. But you can see the space. This is my seating position, and my friend, who is 6'2", is able to sit back here and still have a ton of leg room left. And that's just amazing, being that this car is originally a very compact and smaller car. When you come up front, the seating position is great for this thing. Like, honestly, your eye level, this is my eye level, this is what you're going to see, you know, when you sit in the Elantra N. This is what I see. I am able to see the hood, which for some reason I really like that, and that's something that I've grown to love with a lot of cars. I come from a older classic muscle car type of era that I love. So with like those older Corvettes, you can see the hood and you see the swooshing. So I love when you get in the car and you can see the hood when you're driving. It's just a little thing with that. On another quick note, for you guys that purchase a 22-23 Hyundai Elantra N, you're going to want to buy some of this weather stripping off of Amazon. These cars are known to leak water into your NOx sensor and cause a check engine light if you go through like heavy rain. Some cars it happens to, some cars it don't, or you happen to power wash it, water can get in, it can go to that NOx sensor and cause an issue. You just get some of this inch weather stripping there and you'll be good to go. So for the most part, this is what the engine bay is going to look like for any Elantra N, other than this tube right here. Holy crap, Jersey. Other than this tube right here, everything else is going to be completely stock and look like this. And for a car that you're going to own for the long run, things are pretty easy to replace. On the old car, I did have an issue with the throttle body going after about 50,000 miles. And honestly, this throttle body change was pretty easy. I actually brought one off of a Veloster N for 50 bucks and threw that in that old car, and it was good to go and never gave me an issue. The old car did last 60,000 miles until we got into that accident. I actually took this manifold off and went to the Sonata injectors. We do have the Sonata fuel pump in this thing too. That's your higher motor mount, which we're going to change, and we're going to get the bar for that. And honestly, your alternator's there. Things are pretty easy to get to, and when you take this intake box off, you can see so much of the transmission that honestly a clutch job would not be bad in this car. I'm pretty sure you have to drop the subframe still, but for the most part, this car seems like a really easy car to work on in the long run. And again, that is one thing I've grown to love. When it comes to some of these newer cars, a lot of the electronics is like all over the place and it looks kind of menacing to work on. And I do a lot of the work on these cars myself. When it came to something back there, I did not do that myself, but other than that, I took this thing off with my buddy who used to work at Hyundai, and honestly, we knocked that out pretty straight. It's pretty straightforward, just a few bolts there. You got a few things in this area, and then you just move this electrical wire harness. And honestly, under here, that's where you'll have your spark plugs at and your coils. Just a 10 millimeter. Easy, easy. So, for me, that part is a win. So, that is all that I have for you guys. This car still is not going to have any real problems. We did have an issue with the auxiliary water pump, which is the water pump for the turbo. It's under the turbo. It's just an electrical piece, like it looks like a little box, and that was actually screaming every time I went full throttle and passed a certain PSI. So that gave an issue, but getting all that fixed under warranty. So we're gonna figure that whole thing out. But again, you have nothing to worry about, especially with the 2024s. There are no known issues really with those 2024s. With these, they're known for the injectors could possibly go out, just a issue from the factory. So they have a recall coming soon for that, and the recall for the high pressure fuel pump that'll take care of that issue with fueling, and probably need something going on for that knock sensor for some people. But again, the 2024 has a different front end design, and I'm pretty sure the hood is a little different. So you guys have nothing to worry about. And when it comes to power, this car, I feel like is top of the line when it comes to it. Like, so easily, the numbers we're able to achieve on 60 to 130. Now the quarter mile, that's one thing. We have to get some good tires on this thing and figure out what that is. And honestly, I'm going to give the tires to my boy who has a stock one and see what he could run. But I've seen people on a tire with a completely stock Elantra N run a 12.8 on a quarter mile and trap around 109. Tuned, I know these things average in the 12s. This car could possibly do a low 11 on the setup that it has now, but the 60 to 130 times for stock is anywhere between that 16, 17, maybe even 15 seconds. When you got a tune, you bump that down. So stage 2, you'll be anywhere between like a 12 and a 13-second 60 to 130. If you're a little bit more aggressive, you could dip into the 11s. And that's where, if you're the DCT, you start to max out at that low 11, high 10. I was able to get a 10.9 on the old car on stock turbo with just meth intake and downpipe. And once I did get, and that was with a mixture of E and butane, so that's a whole lot more fueling. That car did get a 9.9, but I never got that again because the trans was slipping, so the torque was way too much at that time. When it comes to this, the 6-speed manual, we did get a 9. We're able to get that all the time. We actually got the record for it right now on stock turbo, and honestly, I wanted to do it in a way where you guys could get the same time if you go with any of the tuners. So when it comes to tuning, you got N75, that's who I'm tuned by. You have lap 3, you have 845, you got the exclusive, you got 6. So do your research on those guys that you might want to get tuned by. If those are one of your favorites, hit them up and talk to them. We do have tuners, so you are going to have options when it comes to this car, and you can get this car moving. Like, honestly, this car fights a lot of cars that it shouldn't be and beats some of the cars that it shouldn't be. And it's amazing that you can do that on a stock turbo, whatever the case may be, minimal mods, and not spending a lot of money. So again, I do deli this thing. This is a deli car. That's all I have to say about that. I hope you guys enjoyed and learned something if you're in the market for this car, or if you just wanted to know how this car has been for the last few months and the few thousand miles that I had it. And hopefully I'm able to just keep going with this thing and hopefully keep this car for its whole life. And maybe in the future they have a TCR drop-in motor. I think that's going to be in the future. So thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys on the next one.